Hey, and welcome back. If you've followed my channel for a while, you're well aware of my passion for Gretsch drums. Whether it's their student line kits, professional level drums, or even vintage kits, I've been fortunate to own and play on a number of amazing instruments from the company. I recently released a video where I attempted to recreate Gretsch's famous Silver Sealer, and I teased that the drum I was working on was part of a larger remodel to be released on my channel soon. If you haven't checked out that video yet, I'd encourage you to go watch it now or after you wrap up watching this current video. And hey, while you're at it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel to help support the content I create. When I was at the Chicago Drum Show in 2021, I was lucky enough to score this kit for a killer deal from the great folks at Hawthorne Drum Shop. I actually inquired about it ahead of the show, and the owner Chris was extremely helpful and offered to pack it along and bring it so I could get a hands-on look at the kit. This set dates back to the 60s and was part of Gretsch's famous round badge era of drums. But the unique part about this kit is its center-mounted lugs. This was in line with other companies building kits at lower price points and saving on hardware by using a dual-sided lug. Gretsch labeled these kits their Playboy outfit. They did offer these kits with a standard 4-piece setup, but another common configuration back in the day was the one-nighter model, where you'd see a bass drum, snare drum, and single rack tom. Now, as you can see, the kit I have now has a matching floor tom, and part of the reason I was able to score this kit for such a deal was due to the fact that this floor tom is a replica. The hoops, lugs, badge, mounting hardware, and bearing edges were all done to almost perfect specifications, but the shell is in fact a Keller maple shell. In addition to the replica shell, a few of the holes were plugged where the internal mufflers once were and the rail mount on the bass drum. And probably the most distinct difference from how this drum originally was is the finish. The drums were stripped of their wrap and refinished in a clear gloss. For whoever originally overhauled this kit, I definitely commend the work, and I think that it was done at a super high quality level. I surely could have been happy leaving this kit as is, but I did notice the tint of the wood on the floor tom to be just a little bit lighter than the true vintage shells. I spent a while thinking about different ways I could remodel these drums to be more true to the era they were from and give the finish a little more life. The most obvious choice would have been to wrap these drums, but these vintage Gretsch shells are notorious for being a little oversized compared to modern shells. And when you add a wrap around the drum, you're increasing the size of that by even more. One way to overcome this is to trim the wrap of the shell near the bearing edge to give the head a place to sit right around the shell and not on top of the wrap. When I shared this idea of wrapping this kit on a Gretsch Drum Owners Facebook group, I had a lot of pushback telling me how beautiful this kit was as is, and highly discouraging the idea of wrapping it. I also was a little concerned that the wrap might affect the tone of the shell by adding all that glue and material to the wood. A few weeks later, while I was working on wrapping a drum for a friend, we briefly discussed the idea of taking this kit and painting a Duco finish on it. And at that moment, it seemed to click for me that I could add a more era-appropriate finish to these drums, while avoiding adding mass and width to the shell from a wrap. I briefly considered trying to tackle this project on my own, but quickly recognized that I don't have the skills as a painter to tackle something like this. I reached out to some drum builders to get an idea for what the price might be, and was blown away at what it might cost to tackle this. The quality of paint used in this isn't what you buy to use on your walls, and the labor to strip, sand, and finish obviously takes a large amount of time as well. I was searching around YouTube and trying to get a sense for how this process might go, and I stumbled upon some videos from a painter in Michigan named Lach. He had a few videos painting different Duco finishes on a variety of vintage drums, and through some further digging I dug up his company's website, Timeless Arts. I reached out and was elated to find out that the cost of having him refinish these 3 shells would be much more reasonable than anywhere else I looked, and I decided to give it a shot. But before I shipped out my shells to Michigan, I decided I would take this replica floor tom shell and add the Silver Sealer finish to the inside to try and get a closer match to the vintage drums. I made a separate video all about that project, and if you're interested, just follow the link in the description or visit my channel to check it out. So after wrapping up the floor tom interior, I stripped all the hardware and grommets off these drums and sent them off to Bruce. I consider myself pretty good at packing and shipping drums, but with the thin vintage shells being shipped for this project, I spared no expense at packing these things as best I could and loading up this box with as many fragile stickers as I could fit. 2 days later, Bruce had already reached out to let me know he'd be starting on my drums soon. In the meantime, I ordered some new inlay strips from Precision Drum Company and figured I'd repaint the hoops and install these strips while I waited for my shells to come back to me. A week later or so, Bruce had reached out to let me know that the shells were all sanded and set to be primed and then painted within the next few days. We had a nice long conversation about Gretsch drums, and somewhere in that conversation we decided to totally switch gears from the original black and gold Duco that I had hoped for and go in a different direction. It was all very spur of the moment, but after our conversation, I felt like it was meant to be, and even the new inlay strips I bought would be a perfect match for this new direction. After a week more of patiently waiting, I had my notification of delivery from UPS and was able to even grab some footage of the delivery truck pulling up, and then taking off without dropping off my package. I guess somewhere along the way these drums got sent back to Bruce due to some sort of mix-up, but he was quick to call me and let me know that the drums were safe, and he was working it out with UPS.
A few moments later.
2 days later, I finally had my drums in the driveway, and I was able to bring them downstairs and open them up. After almost a month of waiting, I was finally able to see these drums for the first time. And as you can see, the new direction we decided to go was the ever-famous Gretsch Cadillac Green. In the spirit of trying to find a finish that was a good way to honor the era of these drums and the company that made them, I can't think of a better direction to go than this. The finish was uniquely Gretsch and seemed to be the holy grail of all vintage Gretsch drums. Growing up, my favorite color was always green, and although I'm not usually fond of wild or crazy finishes, this one seemed so classy and elegant that I knew I'd love it. These kits often came with gold hardware and the gold sparkle inlay in the bass drum hoops, and I also thought that was a nice nod to my favorite sports team of all time, the Green Bay Packers. I was eager to get this all assembled and back up and playing, and as you can see, it turned out stunning. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into a kit than just the looks, but I have a hard time not smiling when I look at this set, and I know I'll cherish it in my collection for a long time. But since sound matters, I'm including a proper demo of this kit in a few different styles and tunings. So as you can see and hear, this project turned out amazing, and I'm so excited to have this in the mix of all my drums. I completely understand that others might feel differently than myself, but I guess that's why there's so many options for these kinds of things. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you've made it this far, please consider giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment. Also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on future video releases. Until next time, thanks.